Right, thanks for joining me back here in the shed. It's been a little while since I posted, I know, I do apologise. I am working on trying to get back to a bit more of a regular schedule, but things are a little bit up in the air at the moment, so we'll get there eventually, hopefully. Thank you to the new followers that I've got, appreciate it all, really do, help me grow the channel. Anyway, this is another little project that I've had on the boil for a while. I've had this mould for quite a period of time now, and I've not had the right piece of wood, or the piece of wood that I thought would be right for it. So I've been umming and ahhing what to use it for, and then I ended up picking up this bit of walnut a little while ago and didn't really have a plan for it. It was something that I picked up because I liked the pattern on it. I thought it'd make a good board, something along them lines, but I've changed direction with that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill part of this with the walnut and then fill the other side with resin. So yeah, it will be a resin table. I know there's a flood of them on YouTube at the moment, have been for a while should I say, but this is my go here. So I've got a rough marking out on here. I'm going to stay wide of the line, trim it all the way around the bandsaw. So to get this roughly cut, I'm going to turn to the bandsaw. Like I say, I've got it, you can see it on there, roughly marked. So let's crack on with it. I really need to go through this workshop at some point and get things organised. Sneaky. That's what we got to do. We just got to basically try and sneak up to as close to the line as we can and then keep testing. Right, so the walnut is now prepared for the mould and it sits in there really nice. I'm not going to go too mad with prepping it, like making sure it fits in there 100%, because I am going to make a template and use my router to make a nice circulator when it's finished. So it's in the best as I want it in there now. So the next step for me is I want to seal all these parts. So I've picked the side that I want to be for the top. It's a side that's got this bigger crack along here, just because I think once it's filled with resin, it'll add another little feature onto it as well. So I'm happy with that. But I want to seal inside here and here with some plain resin, just because from experience, once they're sealed, it stops the air from coming through from here and coming into the other resin as well, so it helps limit the amount of air bubbles you get, especially close to the joint. They're never 100% free from my experience. There's always one or two. I'm sure there's plenty of other techniques out there to try and make sure it's 100%. But this is how I do it anyway. This is what we're going to do. So I've got that ready. I've mixed up a little bit of clear resin, and I'm just going to use a paintbrush and literally just get it in there as much as I can. I'm not caring if I get it on the walnut itself, because I am going to use a flattening bit and go over the whole top anyway, so I'll take that down, or I'll use my sander, whichever one I'm going to do. I'm not 100%, but then that will get that down. So I'm happy with that. Let's get painting, or let's get sticking. And with some of these cracks and stuff, it's never going to be 100% filled, but you can get as much as you can. I'm sure if I poured some more in there and then brushed it around, might get a bit more coverage, but this is the way I've done it before and I've had good success with that, so I'm not going to change from that. I'm a bit of a creature of habit, but once I do something and I find it works really well, that's generally what I stay with. Same like the resin that I use. It's not necessarily the cheapest resin you can use, and I think if you're doing products to sell, I don't think you should use the cheapest anyway, just because they're not always the best. Cheap sometimes is good, don't get me wrong, I do use a lot of products or a lot of things that are cheap and I'm really happy with the outcome, but at the same time, cheap isn't always the best. And like I say, as I sell my products, I want to make sure that I am extremely happy with them before I let them go on to a customer. Just because it's my name that's on it, so I want to make sure they are 100% perfect or is the best I can get it to before it goes on to them. That's just me. I don't think it's a bad way of being. I like this stage as well because it gives you a little glimpse into potentially what the product's going to be like at the end of it, once you've had the colour on. Now, a little bit of interaction from you guys. What would you do? Would you seal the whole thing after it's been finished? As in the sense of once the resin's been poured for the other side, would you then coat the whole table with resin to seal it? That's an idea that I've been playing with, just because obviously I like the way the resin looks on it. Plus, it makes it a bit more hard wearing, I find. I know the best thing to do would be to coat both sides, because obviously it helps with the moisture control, essentially. So let me know, what would you guys do? Would you just finish it with a nice wax or a nice sealer? A lot of my products, as you know, I do my own wood wax, so I finish them with that. But at the same time, I do like a bit of Danish oil. I think Danish oil looks really nice with the walnut. Obviously it makes the grain stand out. So what would you do? Let me know. Because what I want to do is tape round it with this resin tape that I've got. And the reason I'll do that is because I'm going to try and stop it from spilling everywhere. And because the thickness of the wood is slightly thicker than the mould, I obviously need to create a dam for it to come up to. Now let's get mixing the black stuff. I'm sure you guys have watched 1,000,001 people mix up resin on YouTubes, so I'm not going to bore you with that part. All I will say is I use this stuff, craft resin. I've been using that for a long time now, never had any issues with it. This is the deep pour one, obviously just because of the thickness of the table, it's going to be a better option for it. But I use this one even for some of my tea light holders and other bits and pieces that I've made in the past, and it's really, really good stuff. Very minimal air bubbles. It's out of all the ones I've used over my time, best one I've used by far. I highly recommend it. Once I've got it all mixed up, I'll bring you back for the pour, and then we'll take them from there. See you soon. Right, you might be able to hear me drill going off in the background. Just mixing up the resin as we speak. But I've already started pouring it. I've got to push play. There was a bit of a mad panic trying to make sure everything was in place. I've had to stick these blocks on it because it was pushing the mould out slightly. Been a bit of a hectic one. Bit of a manic one, if I must admit, but we're on track, so it's alright. So I'll bring you back for the next lot of pouring and mixing and everything else. So you're not going to miss out on anything too much. Yeah, bear with us. So I think I'm going to be in a bit of a crisis here because I've actually just run out of black pigment, which I could have sworn I had enough. Hopefully I'll have enough resin. As you can tell, I didn't really plan it out very well. Stupidly. But what I will do, I'm going to mix up, I'm going to pour this in, see where it sits, potentially mix up some of the clear and just maybe pour some clear through it just to see what effect it has. Who knows? Might come out really cool. It won't be a completely clear pour, the last one, because there is some of the residue left in this as well. So it won't be completely clear. I'm definitely going to have to mix up the next batch. Alright, so it's not completely clear. I know from the camera there it probably looks it, but because of the residue in the bucket or in the tub, yeah, it's mixed it slightly, so it happens. It's going to be enough for the mould, I think. It's not taking out to deliver the wood, but that's not the end of the world, because once I do the flattening, that will bring it down to the same level, so that's not actually too bad. I'm not too annoyed with that. Let's brought it up to the edge of the mould. That's a bit of a lesson to all you guys out there. A bit more preparation. If I prepared a bit more, readied a few more bits, I might not have been a bit more as flustered as I am. That's going to get stuck in there. But regardless of that, all will be good. I'm not too mad. Not too annoyed with myself. Now that may be me being a bit paranoid, but because I'm going to leave it down here to set for a little bit before I take it up indoors, I don't want the thing to topple off. So let's leave that like that. Now, I'm going to come and try and put a pattern in it as well in a little while. But for the moment, let's just try and mix some of that clear and the mixed resin together. Right, that's now done for the time being. So far, sort of so good. I'll bring it back when I'm at a stage of taking it out of the mould and we'll see what we've got to. Catch you in a little while. Right, now ready to get this out of the mould. So as you can see, I'll try and get you a view on it. The resin didn't quite come up to the height of the wood, but that's not the end of the world. I'm gonna make a jig so then I can flatten this off completely, get it all nice and level, as you don't want it sitting wonky on someone's floor, do you? Hopefully it comes out the mould easy enough. So far it's looking promising. There we go. That's that out of the mould. Got quite a funky pattern on the bottom as well. The only thing I need to do once I get a bit more resin is to fill this in. I was hoping that would seep through from the top side, from the other bit, and a little bit has, but not enough. So I need to get some more resin just to fill that in. But there we go. The tape the resin did go around the back of the tape a little bit. I'm sure we expected it to do, but that'll all clean up, so I'm not bothered, not worried about that. Quite happy. Right. So we're getting on with this walnut and resin table now. Trying to get it finished, hopefully getting it finished this side of Christmas rather than into 2025. There's this one and there's another project that you can see underneath here. Trying to get them both done. But we'll see how we get on. So this was the one that I've got that I was going to do copper legs for. I've now turned away from that a little bit. I'm still going to do copper legs on something, just not on this one, as playing around with it and doing slightly different styles. I've not got anything now I'm completely happy with, and just getting that consistent result as well. It's just not happening at the moment. So I need to have a carry on playing around with that. So I've gone a different route. I'm going to make them out of wood. I've got some templated up here in ply. It may stay with that. Obviously I'll colour this, maybe just paint it black or do something else, get a real nice finish on it. I'm unsure on the finish of it yet, so it's very possible it will stay with just ply, as I don't have any other hardwood that I think will go with this. I don't have any walnut left, so I can't make them out of that, and I'm not looking to purchase any more hardwood. I've got so much in the workshop as it is at the moment. that this is how it's going to stay. But I think with these legs, I think if they were painted black, they would blend really nicely. So I'm just in the process now of shaping them. It's just a simple leg that I've cut like this. So this is what it's going to be like. It does have a slight taper on this side, obviously radius here and here. I'm going to round off the bottom of the leg as well, just to make it look a bit nicer, present nicer. So that's something I'm still working on. So the next step is to carry on sanding, just to get the final shape there, as in carry on sanding here, shaping the bottom of the legs, getting that all finished off. I've then got to cut an angle on here, which I'm still working out at the moment. I'm only going to use 3 of these legs, so put in the comments what you guys will be telling me now, I'm sure, should be the angle on this. I've had a play around, and from what it appears, it should be 30 degrees. That's to make 3 of them actually join up in the middle together. Am I wrong? Am I right? We'll see once I've cut them. But out of interest, why don't you guys stick up a little bit in the comments and tell me if it is right or not. Like I always say, it's one way we all learn, don't we? So let's get these clamped up, carry on sanding. Sitting decent. Right, so let's carry on sanding. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually get my tabletop sander out, get it up here, then I can get them bits flatter, better, and I may be able to shape that a little bit more through the angle of it as well. Alright, let's crack on. Right, so you guys get the gist of what I'm doing now. It is just shaping them. It is taking a bit of time, but I don't want to rush it because I don't want to make any mistakes on it. What I'll do is when I've got them down to the final size and the style that I want, I'll bring it back and show you. Then we can work on them angles. Right, so this tabletop I've now got sanded as much as I want to sand it. I've got it down to a 320, so it's good enough for what I want to do next. So the plan is, I've been playing about with different ideas, as I do. I was going to just sand this even more and then buff the life out of it to bring it right back up to a high sheen, and then seal the wood. What I've decided to do now though is give it a flood coat. So that's why I've left it at 320. I'm going to work on the legs a little bit more now. I've got them to a state where I'm happy with them, and I'm going to just give them a paint. So I've got to mask them up, and then that's it. Then we can get onto the flood coat of this. So I'm going to do that afterwards because I've got to leave it for a while. So I just want to do a bit more work on the legs before I go ahead and do that, because I've only got a small shop. I don't want to create too much dust around it and get it in there. So this is the style of legs that I come up with in the end. So obviously I was toying with different ideas, and I was going to make copper pipe legs, which I'm still playing around with, so I'm not written those off, but it's just not going to be for this table. I've got a plan for another table, a slightly bigger one, which I've got the idea for a set of legs for that. So that's where I'm going to leave it for now. So I then played around with different styles, as I wanted to make some wooden ones, whether I was going to make them hardwood, whether these were going to be a template and then I was going to replicate it onto hardwood, but I've decided just to go ahead and do it this way. I quite like the style that I'm going to do it in. I've seen it a few times now in a few different shops and online and stuff. So yeah, so I'm really happy with them. I'm happy with the sort of style that I'm going to go with. So that's the next step. So I'm going to explain it to you now. So what I'm going to do is these pieces, the side pieces, I'm just going to do in a matte black. So they're going to be just painted black, but I'm going to leave the edges clear. I'm going to seal them with a matte polyacrylic, I think it is. Or it's a matte varnish, but it's basically the same as a polyacrylic. So I'm going to do them in a matte varnish on the edges, just to bring out the feature of the plywood, which I quite like, and just do those in black. However, I am stuck at the moment as to which way I'm going to do the legs. Whether it's going to be this way, which is how I designed them to be actually, for the tabletop to sit on here, or whether it's going to be that way. Now, I like both ways. I think I am leaning more towards this way. I think I am leaning more towards this way. And I've put a poll up, so if you follow me on Instagram and stuff as well, you might have seen that. I've put a poll up because I'm unsure. I've put the question out to family and friends, see what they think. At the moment, that's a tie. We'll see what happens with the poll on Instagram. But there is, I'll show you, give you a rough idea of what it looks like. So, obviously it's not all centralised or anything else. So it'd be like that way. Or like that way. Now I'm leaning on this style just because it's a bit more, I feel it's a bit more retro, and I like retro stuff. So I'm leaning a bit more that way. Don't know whether I explain this with you as well with the top. It lets a bit light through just because of the way the resin mixed. But I'm happy with that. So I want to try and put that on here so the light still goes through as well. But I am really more, I think I'm leaning more towards this way. Every time I look at it, that's what I'm seeing now. And it should be more than stable enough. Now obviously, no table if anyone dances around on it or anything else will be that stable, but that should be more than stable. And obviously this way will definitely be stable anyway. Either way, it could be tilted. But drop in the comments, which way do you think it should go at this point? I'm really happy with how the top's coming out. Obviously that walnut, once it's got the resin over the top of it, will be absolutely wicked. So I'm chuffed with that. I'm just warming up the varnish and stuff. So I didn't show you how I went around making these legs. And that was more just because, well, I forgot to put the camera on, if I'm honest. But it was a very simple process. Again, it was just a rough idea that I had in my head. There was no plans or anything that I found. I just came up with a slight angle here that I liked, and I used the paint can for the radiuses here and inside here. I then put 3 pieces of the ply together and then just trimmed them out and then sanded the heck out of them to get them to that state, get them all even, nice and level, everything matching up. I then, since I've cut the angles in the middle here, so they are actually joined together straight in the middle, and it is only glue that's holding them together, but it is sturdy as anything. Obviously with me, I'm not a professional, I'm just someone who's giving it a go. So there was some gaps here which I filled, and underneath there was a little gap. Actually on top they fitted together well. That to me is telling me that my blade might have been off slightly. I could be completely wrong, and I'm sure these guys, I could be So I had to fill in here. On top was actually really good. On the bottom I had to fill a little bit, and on the sides I had to fill a little bit. That's telling me that my blade, even though it was angled over at the right angle, 30 degrees, it potentially had a bit too much pitch on it that way, if I'm explaining that right. Like I've said so many times, I'm not an expert at this stuff. I am learning as I go, and I'm giving everything a shot for the first time, and I'm loving it. So that worked out anyway, because bit of filler, done. And as I'm painting these black, I'm not worried about that. If I was gonna leave them raw, I would have probably tried to make another couple, try and get the joints better. But like I say, I'm happy. So we're pretty much there with the sanding. I want to just smooth these a little bit more. They feel a little bit rough, and I know the paint's going to take up a lot, but just want to make sure they are properly nice and tight. What do? I have these. Now these were another one of my little Christmas presents, which I'm really happy with. The little hook and loop sanding blocks. Now people obviously do know what I do, but they also know that there's a company that I get quite a few of my tools from, and that is this company, Rutland's. I don't know if you can see the name on there. I've got those. I've got these magic little things, the little silicone pads on them, but they lock together as well, so you can make a nice big square if you want, whatever else, just to help stop things sliding around. But I have that one, and I have that one for like more flat surfaces. And around the workshop I have a few tools from Resin, so I like this stuff. They're reasonably priced as well, so give them a shout, have a look. I'm not sponsored by them, however I think I should be. Rutland's, reach out. I've been using their stuff for a while now. Even like my bandsaw, that's from there. I've got clamps that are from there. Obviously these. What else did I get from there? Pocket hole jig. I've got quite a few things from there in time. So the question is, do I spray it first, get these nice and clear, get a nice crisp join, or do I paint it first? I think I'm going to paint it first, so I'm going to tape all these joints up, all the joints, and tape all these edges up. So I'm going to paint it first, get that bit done. And you can probably hear the fan going in the background as well. That's because it's cold in the workshop today. So I've got the heater on, warming up the resin, ready, warming up the lacquer as well. this may take some time, but I'm not going to rush it because I want a nice crisp line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to carry on doing what I'm doing, and I'll bring you back once I've got this all taped up, ready to go. See you in a minute. So we're all taped up, ready to go. I have given it a brush off already. Now I'm a little bit more. See what it comes out like. Now it's supposed to be a matte paint. That is what it says on the tin. At the moment it's not looking very matte. Hopefully it will dry better. Here's a thick paint. Still think I'll give it 2 coats potentially though, see how this dries. Now I fully expect to have to go around and potentially tidy up these edges anyway. So I'm being careful, but I'm not being overly cautious. I want to get the paint on there. This table's taking me long enough. Right, so that's them got their first coat on. Now I'm going to find somewhere for them to sit and dry, and I'm going to get it set up so we can do the resin pour on that. I'll leave this to dry potentially overnight and then give it another coat, depends on how it dries. At the moment though, that is definitely, apart from it being more gloss, it's definitely the look I'm going for. It has annoyed me that it's gloss though, or it's coming out like a gloss at the minute. So we'll see how that dries. So let's set that aside. Right, so I've set that in front of the heater. I'm going to just try and encourage it to dry a little bit quicker, just so I can potentially get another coat on it today. I'm going to get set up for the resin for that now. I won't film myself doing the second coat on that because you guys won't know what it's like to put paint on, but I'll bring you back when we're set up for this. Okay, so we're now ready to get the resin on this board. Like I explained already, I've got it to 320, absolutely happy with that. I've just given it a bit of a clean over, a bit of water, a bit of a tissue, to give the whole thing a wipe over, get as much dust off as possible. I've gone through some of the little pinholes that are still around on it to clean that out as well as much as possible, and that is it. So I use this resin, it's a craft resin one. It's the only one I've actually got in at the moment. Is a deep pour. I've used it for this side of thing as well. So it's not ideal for this. You're either better off using a tabletop epoxy or just a normal craft epoxy. That will seal it all right, but this is the only one I've got here at the moment, and I have used this for doing exactly the same thing, and it's absolutely fine. This is also with the same resin. That's not thick either, so it's absolutely fine for small pours. It's only an annoying bit, you have to keep pumping like this. I might have to set something up that I can do it, a little electric pump or something, or just take the top off and pour it, but it's a bit more control of this, isn't it? So this is a 2-to-1 mix for this. I use these little silicone cups with a measuring part on the side. Makes it nice and easy, and also because they are silicone, makes it easier to clean up as well. I've been using these for a long time now. It's the fun part letting the cups drain out in it. So I use these little tumblers for doing small batches like I do. With the bigger ones I've got the silicone bowls and stuff. These ones were just old ones from the kitchen, so I've reused them for this, you know. I'm saying they're old ones, but don't let your significant other see you walking out with a couple of tumblers just because you want to mix up some resin. They might not be so happy. The way I clean these silicone cups up is just with some blue roll. Just give them a wipe out while they're still wet. They clean up absolutely fine.
Siri, put a 3-minute timer on.
Use Siri as a bit of a helper. Bit of an unofficial assistant. Now, I'm not overly worried about the bubbles and stuff because I'm not doing a pour where it's going to sit in a mould. All the bubbles will work their way out from this. So I'm not being rough with it, but I'm not being that cautious with it either like I normally would be. Make sure you've got everything blended. Scrape the sides, that's what I do. You can generally tell when it's mixed together as well, because before it's fully mixed, you can actually see there's like a separation in the fluids. I don't know whether that's because there's a difference in the viscosity of it, or obviously a chemical imbalance, or where it's actually just starting to react to each other. But once it's mixed, once it's fully mixed, you can actually see it goes clear rather than having like a fog to it. Now we're ready to pour. And again, this is how I find it easier to clean up with the resin stuff. Just clean up as you go. Unless, even if you're going to be reusing it again, obviously if you're using colours, you don't want to cross-contaminate it. So it's much easier to do it this way. It's part of the process I like as well, because you actually get to see a glimpse into how the project's actually going to be. Just make sure you got all the way around, obviously. But it will also find its own level. Any excess will run off. I thought I'd missed that bit. And that looks amazing, even if I say so myself. Let me say that again. That looks amazing, even if I say so myself. Which I do. So now, leaving that overnight, make sure it's all good. I'm going to get the legs obviously drying up, give them another coat, but I'll catch you once this is cured. See you soon. Right, so it's now time to get this table finished. I've got it sanded down to 800 is what I've gone to with this one. I'm happy with that. I'm more than happy with that, with where it's got to the finish. It's really decent. I've got both sides sanded down to 800. So the next stage is now just to polish it up. So I use these headlight restoration kits on these products. These projects even. So I've got it to 800. I'm going to take the top side a little bit further. I'm probably going to take it to about 1500 and then buff that side up, polish it up. At the moment I've got this side, the underneath, down to 800, like I say, and I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to give this a bit of a clean off and then just buff this one up. And then we'll flip it, get the other side done. As you see in one of the last clips, the legs for the table, they're already done. They've turned out amazing. So I'm really happy with that. So we'll have this project finished this year. It's not going to drag on anymore. It's been beating my backside, something rotten, this table, just with the way the resin's gone on it a couple of times. I'm not new to doing resin stuff. I'm not a pro at it or an expert at it, but I've done a fair few projects now. So I'd like to think I'm handy with it. But this one was just kicking my backside. I had it set up. I had the last resin flood coat poured over it, and it was curing lovely. I come back to it the next morning, right in the middle of it there was a hair. Picked it out, but unfortunately it got in there just as it was setting, so it left an indentation in it. So I've had to sand that back, which was a pleasure, as you can imagine. Just gonna make sure. That should do for the first start. Okay, let's go. Now Now when I'm doing it, I like to overlap, and I generally overlap probably by about 50%, so I keep the middle of it basically in line with the edge of the path that I just done, and I just keep going back and forth, and I do change direction. I go around all different places just to try and get as much coverage and make sure I've got all the bits as I can. But the biggest thing that I do is keep it lubricated, and obviously you want to keep moving. If you stop, obviously I'm only at slow speed at the moment, but if you stop at a high speed and you're in one spot, you can burn it, you can burn through, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to put any funny spots on it. So, first go to see what it looks like. Alright, it's definitely getting there, just needs a little bit more. That's it after the first polish. Not looking too bad. So, let's go again. That is the second pass on that now. As you can see, it's got a nice shine to it. Let's see if I can get some better pictures. But for the underside, I'm happy with that. It's not a side everyone's going to be seeing. That's after the second pass. So like I say, with the top side here, I'm gonna buff that or polish that even more. Not even polish, I'm gonna sand that even more down to, I think I've got 1500 grit sandpaper. I'm gonna take that down to about there. Actually, I think on this, yeah, it's down to, sorry, it's 3000 grit on the paper on the with the polisher that I've got there. So I'll take it down to that. Get it nicely finished. And I will be wet sanding this as well. So as you can see, I'm using a drill for this stage. If there's any small polishers, buffers that you could recommend, give us a shout, add a link, drop it in the comments. Obviously I don't want to go spending a heat load because I don't do as many projects like this, although saying that, I do have a big project coming up that might come in anything. So yeah, if anyone's got any recommendations for a small polisher that you can attach sanding pads and stuff still to, then let me know. Yeah, thanks. For now, let's carry on polishing. Or sanding. Keep saying polishing. Let's carry on sanding. catch you back when I'm at the polishing stage. Alright, so that's it sanded now to 3000, which I think is more than enough. So next step is just get polishing. You might have seen a change of drawer as well. Battery's running out. Right, that's the first pass on that now. Again, I'll take a little video and some pictures. First pass with the polish after being sanded to 3000. Looks really nice. Coming on well. Right, so I'm going to carry on doing that, and I'm going to bring you back once it's all finished. And I'll get the legs, and obviously get the legs assembled onto it. Attached, should I say? So I'll bring you back for that. So this is after the second polish. I have one final stage to do. This underneath is only the mat that you can see here. It's only this anti-slip mat, but it's turning up. Really, really nice. Okay, so this top now is completely polished. After this is where it's been sitting on the cloth. It's got a couple little marks on it. That's it, completely polished up. Got a wicked reflection on it, lovely shine. So I'm really happy with that. So the next step now is to attach the legs to the top. So if you remember, it's been a while. Well, for me it's been a while anyway. That's the legs I made. So these are going to go that way. Let me put it out the right way for you. So it's going to be that way. And so it's going to sit. Now, as most of you will know, I did put a pole up and I was going back and forth as to whether I was going to do the legs that way. I really like the way they look. And now it's finished, I still am really keen on that way. I do like it. You know, has a nice different aesthetics to it. But I'm gonna go with the pole and with the choice of the mini, which is going the other way. I am gonna make something else with this style of legs, I reckon, just because I do like the way they look. Right, so yeah, with the legs this way, and as I do really prefer the legs this way. They do look much nicer for me. The only thing is, because I shaped them already, it does make it very unbalanced. So I am going to make something else like this, maybe a coffee table with these legs, but I'll do them this way. And obviously if I make a bigger coffee table, I can make it so it's got 4 legs, and I'll shape them this way as well. I do still have the template for these. Yeah, I will leave these at a more sharper angle, just because I think that's helping it tilt, essentially, is making it more unbalanced, being that they're rounded. So, like I say, the next step is to get them attached. I'll show you what the fixings I'm using for that. So I'm using these, they're like little figure of 8 clips. They're really good, almost look like a bike link. And I'm just gonna do a little hole on here, or not a hole. I'm gonna use my forcing a bit, countersink them a bit here, just so that sits flat. So when they go onto the actual top, the whole thing will sit nice and flat. I've already got the measurement that I want here, because what I'm trying to do is I don't want these to be sitting right into the resin. I know it's plenty strong enough. I want to keep them onto the wood as much as I can. Obviously there will be potentially at least one going into the resin just from the way the legs are shaped, but I'm going to try and keep them both on the wood. So I need to keep them closer to the center, just so they secure better, they go into the wood. I've already taken a measurement for that, so that's what I'm going to do next. So I've got a 22mm forged bit in here, and like I say, I'm just going to sink them in. All I need to do is just to make sure that I put them on the right side, on the correct side of the legs even, should I say. So these two need to be facing in. And that one can be any way. One thing I almost forgot to do is I'm going to put a bit of scrap wood against the side here, and I'll draw through into that as well, because it's going to help stop any blowout against the siding. Because I've painted these already, I want to minimise as much chip out as possible. So I do have some scraps around, and we'll just clamp them up. That's how I'm going to do it. This one is being drilled onto this side, just so it can, yeah, that's the way I want it to hang. And that's all it is, just playing about with it so I can get the depth to where that's going to sit flush. Might not be able to see it on there. Yeah, there you go. There. So then that will sit in there, and it sits flush with the surface, which is nice. You don't really want to go any lower than that, because what ends up happening is if you go too low into the wood, is obviously you're pulling up this side to try and get it to connect. Now it will never be that much, hopefully, but you just got to try and stay as close to that as you can. And with that, I actually think I need to take that one a little bit more. Perfect. So that's what I'm going to carry on doing with the other ones. Alright, so that's all three of them done. So I'm just going to get them screwed onto the legs, and then we'll go ahead and get the top fixed on and actually have this table done. So now the part that I've been drilling into the actual top, because obviously I don't want it to go through, which is why I've set up my countersink bit in there, just enough to go through into the wood and nowhere else. And just double checking again. Right, that's marked. Now let's drill. Done. Ow. It's a long bit. And now it's together. And that is now finally it. I can actually say I'm done with this table. I'm actually finished with it, but I'm also so done with it. It's been such I've loved working with it because it's the way it's come out. I'm loving it, but God, has it been a fight. But that's it. It is done. Done and dusted. I'll get some pictures up on the socials if you guys are on there. Get it all nice and cleaned up, get the pictures up on there. Obviously I'll add some pictures to the end of this as well. And if anyone's interested, drop me a comment, go on the socials. You can connect with me on there as well. If you want it, we can talk. I'll do you a deal. Thanks for watching this video. I really do appreciate all the views. I appreciate all the subscribers, you know, new and old. All those that are viewing that are not subscribed, just whack that button. It helps out massively. Help grow the channel. It's slowly getting there. This year I really do want to grow it. So please go ahead and bash that button. I'll see you on the next one. Crack on.